Welcome to a new winter season of Borough Talks, the Borough Market podcast. I'm author and food writer Giulia Crouch, and in each episode I'll be sitting down with the traders at London's most iconic market to get to know the stories behind the stalls.
People come to a market for an experience. They come open-eyed and hungry.
As you walk through the market, you are immediately hit by its smells, sounds and sights. Freshly baked bread, towers of cheese.
It's hard as a rock, it doesn't need a fridge, and it's used to season your foods.
Cups of steaming coffee, the shucking of oysters, and hot, sizzling pans. It's a treasure trove of deliciousness. Each trader has a unique story to tell.
So we don't really brew the milk in with it too tough because the fat from the milk will split, and that's how we make a really, really good chai.
So much of the joy of food, particularly at this time of year, is sharing it with other people, and that's what Borough Market is all about. We'll be taking you with us as we discover the passion, expertise and characters that make Borough Market so unique, as we share good food and drink with the people who live and breathe it every day.
Cheers, guys.
This is Borough Talks.
So today we're going to talk about a very Christmassy topic, which is wine for the festive season. And I am joined by Pearson, who is head of wine at Borough Wines. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
No worries, thanks for having me.
Wine is just very festive by its nature.
Yeah.
How much does wine play a role in your Christmas and your festive period?
Oh yeah, massively. I've grown up with parents who drink good wines, and I've always enjoyed wine, hence I'm in wine.
Yeah.
There's every bit of Christmas and the festive season that calls for a different bottle of wine, whether that's champagne Christmas morning or
Yes.
sparkling wine Christmas morning. It used to be traditionally champagne, now I'm drinking more English sparkling wines or something different.
That's so interesting.
With your salmon in the morning. It's classic for my stepfather to do.
Do you know, I was wondering whether this was like a tradition that everybody does or just my family. So I had to check with my friend. I was like, do you drink sparkling wine on Christmas morning? She was like, yes. So I was like, okay, I can ask about this. Which wines do you think are like distinctly Christmassy?
For sure, champagnes. Hopefully, I think English sparkling wine is kind of creeping in there as well now, which is the quality of it rising. And then classic like your Bordeaux's, big reds for Christmas Day. But I think for the lunch, I think that's definitely changing. This doesn't have to be a Bordeaux. There's like so many different big reds out there now that people like to have with their turkey.
What do you think is a good pairing with Christmas lunch? Because I feel like that's the main part of Christmas, at least it is for me. It's the food. And
Yeah.
what do you think is the best pairing?
My family always do like 3 different meats. We have gammon.
Do you? You go
beef,
to town. We just do
turkey.
the one, but we have lots of little. We have all the trimmings, which can be quite meaty.
Yeah. So we have everything. So like on the table we normally have like a couple big clarets, maybe a Magnum.
That's very festive.
Yeah. And then oaks, a really good oak Chardonnay. Could be a Burgundian or something like from California, Napa. And wines for me is part of Christmas Day, massively so.
Absolutely. How do you go about selecting them? Like, what qualities do you look for in a good wine for Christmas?
You can either go to town and spoil yourself and really ball out and enjoy yourself, or you look for something a bit different. I think I'm definitely now getting to the point where I'm playing around with finding more interesting wines to kind of pair with Christmas lunch.
This is something I wanted to ask you about. Obviously, at Christmas, people tend to have a lot of guests, a lot of visitors to the house. What would you say is a safe bet, crowd-pleasing wine that's going to just go down well with pretty much everybody?
I think for a red, a Pinot Noir.
Okay.
So it tends to be a little bit lighter style. Just had a kiss of oak. It normally kind of goes well with the food quite well. And yeah, just a classic style Pinot Noir normally goes really easy. You can.
When people say, oh, it's an easy drinker, what do they mean by that? What are they describing? I never know. Does it mean like fruity and light?
Yeah, I think kind of more medium bodies, like not too heavy. I think some people find really rich tannic wines a bit too much.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have friends or family that always say like, oh, I don't drink red wine. I think that's what they kind of mean when they say
They're
that.
not my best friends.
Okay. Those big reds, like, which I kind of get because like drinking those without any food especially is quite rich in your stomach. So I think like Pinot Noir, kind of, there's a lot of lighter styles of Pinot Noir out there. It's like young Burgundians, classic New Zealand Pinot Noir, a lot of people drink these days that you can get in lots of places. They tend to be quite easy drinking wines.
How do you feel about a chilled red wine? Because I'm quite partial.
Yeah, certain styles and certain varieties. I brought one today that
Great.
is, I think it's a classic style red wine. but it's done in a way that can be done chilled, served chilled. Also goes quite well with white meats as well, and it's a good crowd pleaser wine.
And how do you feel about a chilled fizzy red wine? Because I'm also partial to one of those.
Well, it's Italian classic, isn't it?
Yeah,
If you go to
exactly.
Italy, Lambrusco, anything like that.
So good with pizza and pasta. I know that's not the topic today, but
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
if you're an Italian Christmas, yeah, then it could be.
that's true, and I just think it's quite a nice aperitif to have.
Yeah.
It's quite a good way to do it. So on the other hand, what's a kind of rogue, interesting Marmite choice wine some people are going to absolutely love and some people are going to be like, that's not for me?
An orange wine, some orange wines. I think you kind of, there's a trend now for orange wines, skin contact wine, and
So what does that mean, skin contact, for listeners who don't know about orange wine?
so contrary to what a lot of people believe, orange wine isn't made of oranges or orange peel. It's basically where you take a white grape, generally a white grape, and you macerate it on the skins, which is how you make red wine. So most juice from grapes comes out clear. As when you open up a grape at home, a table grape, a red one, you'll see the inside flesh is white. So if you just press that off from the skins, you end up with quite a clear juice. So to get that colour and that body for a red wine, you generally leave it on the skins for a period of time, depending on how you're making a wine, the style you're trying to make. So it's the same with orange wine. You just take a white grape and you do the same kind of methodology where you leave the skins in with the juice. So you crush them when you get them in from the vineyard, and you leave it there. It could be a couple of days, could be weeks, could be months, even a year. So you get that kind of dark kind of orange tint, and it does give a bit more body, a little bit of tannins. And obviously there's so many styles of orange wine out there as well. So
That's the thing. I was going to say, what do they taste like? But I guess you can't really lump them all into one
it's
category
so hard.
because they differ.
Yeah, I think a lot of the orange wine kind of movement's gone into the natural wine kind of movement, has kind of tied in together. So you find a lot of natural wines a bit more funkier,
Yeah.
a bit more kind of unfiltered. So then people associate orange wine with that a bit more, so they kind of put off maybe for that reason if they're not into those kind of natural, more funky wines. But you don't have to make it that way. There's lots of orange wines that are made more in a classic style, and there's probably lots of high-end wines around the world made for years that are sold as white wines. They're actually been made in an orange wine kind of way,
Yeah.
but no, they never shouted about it.
So natural wine has had quite a moment, hasn't it? What exactly is natural wine? I think some of these terms really mystify people and they just don't know what it means. So what does it mean?
If you ask one of my previous lecturers, he always said, I remember from like day one, he was like, every wine's natural. It's all made from grapes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think unlike organic or biodynamic, where there's rules and regulations around kind of using those terminologies, natural is a bit kind of free-for-all. So it's quite hard to kind of ascertain what is fully natural. In my opinion, something that natural is, because when you make wine, there's lots of additives you can add during the winemaking process to help make your wine. And
Is that to like preserve it in?
there's lots of additions you add to wines, like you can add acids, you can add sugar in certain regions, you can add water in certain regions to bring down the alcohols. That's like the basic, and there's like a load of other things used for fining, filtering, etc. For me, for a natural wine would be not using any additives and letting the grapes kind of speak for themselves. Big thing that as well is potentially like a wild ferment, which is where you let the yeast that are naturally found on the grapes start the fermentation process off, rather than using what you call a cultured yeast, where you kind of get a packet of yeast, a bit like you would at home if you're making bread.
I was just thinking, is it comparable to like sourdough bread
Yeah,
versus
essentially.
the yeasted?
I think to make a good, clean, natural wine, you have to start with something called a pied de cuve, which is where you'd pick some of your grapes a couple of weeks or a week before you want to pick the rest of your fruit, before it's fully ripened, and you'd start a little fermentation off in a small tank, or if you're doing real small scale, a little bucket, and you kind of monitor that and you kind of help it get going. So obviously a small amount of volume is easier to kind of control temperature, etc. So you can kind of help that fermentation begin, let the yeast start multiplying, and then when you pickle the rest of your fruit, you then throw that in, and then hopefully you've got a strong yeast culture already going, like you would with a sourdough starter.
Does it just make it a bit more interesting?
It helps with a consistent ferment. So a big issue of like doing a wild fermenting wine is that you can pickle your grapes, crush them all, press them all, put them into a tank to start fermentation, but if the yeast struggles because there's not enough for them to kind of keep multiplying, or the conditions aren't great for them to keep going, your ferment could get like sluggish and stuck, and then you get loads of unwanted flavours, and also you might have an issue of finishing off in making your wine.
So it's a bit harder to make natural wine. It's a bit more unpredictable.
Yeah, for sure. I think you need to be more careful with it. So like, yeah, again, I remember the first week when I started studying winemaking, my lecturer again said, if you want to be a really good, consistent, natural winemaker, don't expect to sleep during harvest.
Okay. Why? Because you've got to have your eye on it all the time.
Yeah, there's lots of things that go wrong really quickly.
Okay.
Whereas when you're making more conventional style wine, there's lots of things you can do to control the conditions better.
You can account for things more.
Yeah, you can add things, you can add nutrients, you add yeast cultures that are strong, that will push through any kind of resistance they might get, whether that's the harsh conditions of the grape must or the temperature, if you haven't got temperature controlled tanks. But yeah, there's lots of ways to kind of help you along, if that makes sense.
So my nan, my Italian nonna, used to make her own wine at her house in Kent. She just grew grapes in the conservatory.
Brilliant.
And it literally tasted like vinegar. But I look back on it and I think she was ahead of the curve. She was making natural wine before it got so trendy.
There you go. Should have sold it.
I should have done bottled it up. So I've heard that it gives you less of a hangover. Is that true, or is that nonsense?
I think it's very hard to kind of put a finger on it without doing lots of research, but yeah, like sulfur, for example. A lot of people say sulfur is a big reason for hangovers.
What is that? Tell us what that is.
It's sulfites. It's preservative. It goes back to ancient times. We've been mining sulfur for as long as human history goes, really, and mining goes, and we've used it to preserve every type of food source there is, and we still do. You can have a quick Google, you'll find the levels in every type of food that they use on average. It's hugely more than wine.
It's spoken about with wine a lot, and people tend to demonise it.
Yeah, I think it's because it's the only thing currently you need to put on your label.
Okay.
It's the only thing that's an allergen in the wine is sulfites. That's a big thing. I think people pick up on that.
And natural wine doesn't use that?
Some do. So natural wine, you tend to find there's also a term low intervention wine.
Yeah, I was wondering about that as well.
So again, I think when people, a true winemaker, if they want to make a true natural low intervention wine, is kind of let the grapes do the talking from the vineyard to the finished product. So again, no additives. You just let the stuff settle in the tank and rack it off to another tank rather than using fining or filtration systems. Maybe try not to use SO2, but I think you've got to be a very brave person not to use any sulfites in your wine.
Why is that?
Just because you risk, especially during bottling, you risk oxidation of the wine happening, especially if you want to age the wine for a little bit. Young white wines that are floral, fruity, you can lose those characteristics if you don't add just a little bit for protection. So I think that's why a lot of people like to use the phrase low instead of natural as much, because they would maybe just use a little bit of sulfur at the end of the winemaking process.
I guess natural implies that it's healthier for you. And so maybe people think that it doesn't give them a hangover for that reason.
Yeah, back to your point of hangover, I think it's a classic case of, I could drink 1 or 2 glasses of any wine in the world and I'm not going to get a hangover. But if I drink a bottle, I'm going to feel a little bit rough in the morning. So I think it's a classic case of moderation is key to hangover prevention, rather than looking for a magical bottle of wine that will never give me a hangover.
I think that's right, and I think it depends where you are as well. So on the 2 occasions where somebody's told me that natural wine won't give you a hangover, one time I was on holiday in Italy and the other time I was on holiday in Greece, and I think because you're there, when you're drinking, you just feel fine the next day because you just go by the pool.
True, and also when you're in Italy and probably Greece as well, I know my partner's Italian, so we go there a lot. You don't go out and just drink like we do here. It's very classic. You go out and it's a lot of food put down at the table.
That's true.
There's no going to the pub and just drinking beer after work without any food. Yeah, it's you go around with friends or you go to a nice wine bar, you have antipasti, you have wines. There's always kind of there's something else with the wine. It's never just the wine.
That's very true.
Which is a bit of a new thing to, I think, British people. But I think we're slowly kind of adopting. So
I think we are. How much do you think you need to spend on a bottle of wine? What's the minimum spend?
I think anything less than £7-8, you're going to struggle to get a good wine, because if you can easily have a Google online. I can't remember the full facts, but I think something like, if you're spending, I think the cheapest one you can find in a shop, maybe £5.50, probably only about 6 or 7p has gone into the actual wine.
Yeah, it's quite shocking when you understand that.
It's nearly £3 on tax, just duty coming into the country.
Yeah.
And then the glass bottle and the crown cap or the cork or whatever the closure is has cost probably 4 times as much, 3 times as much as the wine inside the container.
Yeah.
So when you think about that, there's obviously some good wines you can spend a lot of money on, and they are fantastic and they will be memorable, is a good word I like to use, a memorable wine. But then also you can spend hundreds of pounds to have a wine that you're just it's like, if you compared that blind tasters with maybe a £10-15 bottle of wine, you might have said the other wine was a better wine.
That would be very disappointing.
I think a lot of wines also, they're selling because of where they're from, the name. It helps.
The prestige of it.
Yeah, that kind of the history of that region or that domain, or DOC is kind of playing into that fact, and I think that some winemakers get lazy because of that. They'll be like, oh, we don't need to make the best wine ever, we just need to make volume so we can sell it at that price, as much volume as we can. Whereas there's some wines in regions that are unknown that they can't charge those exuberant prices because of the name of the regions. They have to let the wine do the talking, and they obviously start at a lower price to kind of get people interested in it. So I think a good price range, if you don't want to break the bank, is anything between 10 and 20. You should be able to get a really well-made wine.
It's nearly the end of the year. What do you think the big trends of this year have been in the wine world?
I'm going to say, just because that's what we do, so I'm going to sound very biased, is kegs wine.
Okay, tell me about that.
It's been around for a while, but it's now starting to get noticed a bit more. So you can go to a lot of venues now in London, Borough Market, ourselves. We do takeaway wines from keg. It's, for me, sustainability at its core. Biggest CO2 emissions from wine comes from the bottle. I think in Bordeaux it's around 30 to 35%. If I remember last time I read up about it. CO2 comes from the glass bottle in the production of the wine there, which is huge, and it's like something you can easily change. And one way of doing that is, there's two ways. One way is kegs wine.
How do you buy kegged wine?
So at the moment it's pretty much on trade. So a lot of restaurants, bars, trying to convert them, pubs potentially, into changing their wines, the way they sell their wines, into kegged wine. And then maybe in the future there'll be, like you can get like those party kegs of beer. Maybe that's a way to go with wine as well in the future. But also, you've got other ways like pouches and bag-in-box. I think alternative methods of packaging is becoming a big thing in wine.
Yeah.
80 or 90% of wine you drink is sold young, so it's sold within 2-3 years. It's meant to be drunk within 2-3 years of being produced, so it shouldn't be aged in a bottle, so you don't need that bottle for the aging process.
Oh, I see. I don't think people know that.
Yeah, most of the time the bottle is cork in the top. That cork is designed to let micro-oxidation happen over years. So your fancy Bordeaux's and Burgundies that sell for thousands at auction that you hear about, they're all designed to be aged for a long time in bottles. So that makes sense. But there's such a small amount of wine that's sold. So, kegged wine, for me, especially for the on-trade, there's no recycling. We are the only ones, I think, in the UK that do currently wine in stainless steel kegs, like a beer keg. So we get them back, clean them out, refill them, which also means we bring the wine over in bulk from the wineries in Europe, which means there's less headspace in the transportation, so less wasted space during transport. And then we keg them direct or bottle them direct ourselves in London. And the keg is fully reusable. In the restaurant, on their end, they haven't got the recycling like I mentioned, and that wine stays fresher. I know from working in hospitality years ago, on a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, your quietest days of trading, you'd open up a bottle of wine, maybe a slightly more expensive one, because someone wants it by the glass, and then by the time you open that bottle back up, it's potentially gone past its best.
It's such a shame.
Whereas with keg wine, you don't have that, so it stays fully preserved in that keg.
That makes massive sense.
Yeah, huge. And I think obviously the options of selling it in different formats inside the restaurant, carafes, smaller glasses, makes perfect sense to me. And
sustainability is something that you really care about at Borough Wines. And I was reading that you've got quite a few schemes, a bottle return scheme.
So kegs are our big one, so that's a huge one. And then our second one, which I think we're one of the only people maybe in the world, I haven't found anyone else that really does it on a mass scale yet. I know a few wineries do that have big on-site kind of cellar doors, especially in California, Australia, where that's a big thing. No one else kind of looks to reuse the wine bottle. So pretty much nearly all the wine bottles that you recycle end up getting made back down to sand to be turned back into something else, and that's a heavy energy process. So we're looking to try and reuse the wine bottles as many times as possible to kind of create a circularity in the industry.
So do customers bring them back? Is that how it works?
Yeah, so if they come to Borough Market, we, obviously if they're a tourist it's quite hard to do so, but obviously hopefully if there's some locals that come here. I used to live just over the river and I used to come do my meat veggie shopping here.
I come and do mine here.
Yeah, it's a really great selection, so especially treat myself as well.
Oh yeah.
And find some more unique produce. It's a really good place to come. So trying to persuade people that maybe come here to do that kind of shopping. If they want to pick up a bottle of wine, we do reusable bottles from our market stall, from keg. Also our core range of wines that we do ourselves, they're all in returnable bottles. So if you bring them back to us, they'll end up back at our winery production facility in London, where we have a machine that will wash them, takes the label off, and then we can refill them.
That sounds amazing. It's such a good initiative.
Yeah, and on trade as well, same, rather than recycle the bottles, you put them back into the crates that we deliver them in, bring them back, and we reuse them. So trying to create that circularity, which I think is huge, no one really does. So
do you think customers are becoming more and more aware of that kind of thing? Do they care about it more?
I think slowly, yeah. I think there's definitely quite a few restaurants we work with that are massively into that. So we work with Silo, for example.
Oh yeah, I know
And they're
them.
like, their whole thing there is everything circularity, zero
Yeah,
waste.
It's an amazing place.
So someone like that, obviously, they're like they're championing us without having to sell it to them in a way. And then there's other people that are looking to become more sustainable in what they do. Working with us is kind of one way of getting there, I suppose.
So how about different flavours? Do you get the kind of trends in wine that you get in food where, I don't know, Korean food is really big or...
Yeah, for sure. I think, as we mentioned earlier, natural wines become a big movement lately. And then I think the last year or two, pet nats have become a
What
huge
is
thing.
that? I don't understand that term. I keep reading it and I don't know what it is.
So there's a French word for, it's called pétillant naturel, which is technically an ancestral method of making sparkling wine. So it's how kind of champagne...
Is it to do with turning the bottle?
Not
What's that
quite.
method?
That's champagne, yeah.
Champagne.
So Champenois method is like the full circle of that kind of development in winemaking. But pétillant naturel is kind of ancestral methods. So the old way of making it kind of died off for years and it's coming back now. It's where you would bottle the wine towards the end of fermentation. So it's still got the yeast doing its thing. There's a little bit of sugar left for them to eat. So you basically bottle it at that point, stick a crown cap on top, and there's that little bit of yeast in there still, which keeps fermenting inside the bottle, but you've trapped it in there. So all that CO2, which is like a byproduct of fermentation, gets stuck in that bottle and it slowly dissolves into the wine, which is why also you get like that little bit of yeast at the bottom of the bottle, so it's a little bit cloudy.
Yeah.
Which some people are put off by.
I quite like that.
Yeah, some people love. So some people shake them up before a little bit of shake them up before
That
they.
sounds dangerous.
Yeah, they're not too fizzy, so you can kind of, normally you can get away with it, like a little shake, to kind of mix up the yeast. Or some people like to settle it in the bottom of the bottle and then obviously just throw away that little bit, that last kind of drop. But they've definitely become quite popular.
So look, there's lots of wine in front of us, which I want to try. So what have you brought for us?
So I brought a few wines. This is the first one. This for me is super interesting. So this is a wine we made in collaboration with a winery down in Sussex. We made this a few months ago, or over the last year. Finished off a few months ago. This is as far as I'm aware, this is the first ever only Charmat method sparkling wine in England, made in England,
Cool.
using English grapes, solely put into keg. Rather than being spumante style, which is more like in a bottle, Prosecco style, we've done it frizzante style because we're serving it on tap. So it's it has to be a little bit less pressure to kind of go through those kind of systems.
What's the difference between spumante and frizzante?
The level of pressure, so in a bottle. So
Is it the
level
fizziness?
Yeah,
Does it result in
effectively,
the different fizziness? Is
Yeah.
one more fizzy?
Yeah, so spumante tends to be like up to 6 bar, which you can do in bottles. Hence, you have the heavy bottles to have to hold that pressure in. I'd love to be able to do kegged wine at that level, just due to the systems in place for pouring them. They can't go up to those pressure points, so you have to do a little bit less pressure. But yes, it's the first ever one made. It's 100% Seville Blanc, so quite high in acidity, but we left about 11 grams residual sugar in there to kind of soften it and balance it. We aged it for a couple of weeks on its lees to give it a bit of rich flavour in tank before we spent a few days putting it into kegs.
So tasty. How would you describe the flavours in here?
For me, it's got like nice, well-balanced acidity. It's got that kind of slight fruity flavours, a little bit of kind of citrus coming through.
I was going to say it tastes like grapefruit. I'm terrible at
It's got that little kind of,
pinpointing the flavours in wine, but when someone else does it, I'm always like, oh yeah, I can taste that. But
that's definitely a citric. I find that citric in there,
Yeah.
and then there's that from the lees aging, you get a little bit of that richness, a little bit of body, and just nice, well-rounded finish.
At what point in the festive period would that be nice to drink, do you think?
I think from November onwards, end of November. all through the winter, till New Year's. I think it's a great alternative to Prosecco. I think for me this is that I find Prosecco a bit too sweet generally, and this is like
You can get some that are really nice and some that are quite sweet.
Yeah,
It depends, doesn't it?
This for me, I think it's that little bit of richness. It's also being made in England. I like to champion English wines.
I was going to say English wine is a kind of a burgeoning scene. I went to a really nice vineyard in Sussex and I had some really delicious English sparkling wine. Do you think that's going to continue? Is that going to get more and more?
For sure. I think more and more every year, more and more vineyards are getting planted.
Is this to do with changing weather? Because they told me that at the moment, that point in Sussex is becoming much more like the Champagne region of France in terms of their weather, so it's becoming really good.
Yeah, a little bit. I think definitely we're getting warmer years. I think the big issue though, which I think also is something that you got to mention when you talk about climate change, is the fact that it brings more chaotic weather. So we're definitely seeing more rain, which I think is not ideal for growing grapes. So it makes it harder in some seasons. Obviously, you can get good years and bad years, as always. So I think, although it's getting warmer in the south coast or the whole of England, definitely growing more grapes here a lot easier. But then there is more risk
That's very
create
true.
problems.
So I can spice some more wines
Yeah.
located behind you. Let's give them a go.
So that was our chalk and lees, which we've just launched. So that's in our market now on tap. So we do it as takeaways, and obviously available in keg as well to anyone who wants.
How big is a keg?
We do 10 litre kegs up to 25 litre kegs. And a 20 litre is our kind of staple one, which I think is a good amount. 27 bottles in a 20 litre keg.
That's amazing.
So yeah.
Sort of eat for Christmas.
There you go.
Just get one of them.
You can get a little tap font at home and away you go.
You could have a whole bar set up, couldn't you? That would be nice.
Done, yeah. Forget having like beer on tap in your home bar.
Have some delicious
Get
English
wine.
sparkling wine.
Yeah, perfect.
That's much cooler.
Give me an idea now. I might do that when I go home for Christmas.
So what else have we got?
So I thought, yeah, I'll bring some wines that I thought would be maybe slightly different for Christmas compared
Great.
to like usual Bordeaux, etc.
This one's a lovely colour. So this is an orange wine that you were talking about.
This is an orange wine. So this is an Albana from Emilia-Romagna. So it's from Italy.
Great.
It's ancient Roman grape variety that's famous back in the ancient times for making sweet dessert wines, and still is. So it's got quite a lot of sweetness to it. So these guys who a winery called Tremonti, they make really good wines. This is being macerated on skins.
That's what gives it that colour.
Yeah, so it gives it that colour. So it's been macerated on skins for a little while, week or two, I think, and then it gives it kind of that dark colour. Also gives it a bit more what I call flesh to the wine. So you've got like the tannins, the structure, and yeah, let's give it a go. So
Let's do it. So I can see on the bottle it says organic and vegan.
yeah.
What does that mean?
So obviously organically grown means that they're certified organic. So they only spray organic chemicals in their vineyards, and they're obviously limited to how they do that. And then obviously vegan means they haven't used any animal byproducts in the fining or filtrating of the wine, which a lot of wineries do. So they've not used that. They've used something else as a product if they fine or filtered it. Obviously if you don't fine or filter it at all, it's generally vegan as well.
Got you.
But
It
yeah,
smells so nice. How would you describe that?
having that skin contact's giving it a bit of nuttiness.
Yeah.
So obviously it's normally a dessert grape, so it makes great dessert wines. So I think it still goes really well with like cheese platters, which are for Christmas. I think alternative to, I know sweet dessert wines can be, some people are just, they're like Marmite. Like you said, some wines earlier, like they're 100% Marmite. Some people hate sweet dessert wines and some people
I quite
love
like them. I think they feel so Christmassy.
Yeah, port and dessert wines definitely,
Yeah,
huge Christmas.
great.
For me, this is an alternative to your dessert wines for people who aren't into those big rich wines. I think it goes great after that Christmas meal.
Could you have it with your Christmas pudding?
Yeah, for sure. I think
that
nuttiness,
would be really
that'd go really well.
nice.
Yeah, that's a really good shout.
And almost like wash it down a bit because the Christmas pudding is so stodgy
Heavy.
and heavy.
Yeah,
and this
rich.
feels kind of like it would
Yeah, and
cut through but also complement.
it's quite a clean orange wine as well. I think it's a really good wine to introduce people to orange wines. So it's unlike those really funky natural ones. It is still naturally made, but it's less. It's been more clean made, if that
I
makes
wouldn't
sense.
say it tastes funky.
My stepfather is a big oenophile. He's not into his funky wines.
Some people are quite sceptical, aren't they?
Yeah, and I gave him this the first time. He was like, not sure about that, but he really liked it. So that's always a thumbs up for me.
Well, it's a yes from me. I like it a lot.
Amazing.
What else have we got?
This is one of my favourite wines we bring in.
This is again a really gorgeous colour, like a quite light red,
So this is
pinky.
this is a classic Côte de Rhône blend. It's from southern Rhône on the west side of the river, from a little cooperative winery that makes natural low intervention wines.
It's such a light red. It almost looks like Ribena.
That's why I love it. Yeah, so Côte de Rhônes are known for being quite big reds.
Okay.
Like the appellations there, Côte de Rhône itself, and then you've got like Hermitage, Châteauneuf-du-Pape, quite famous ones that are really big, heavy wines. I love this wine, and I think it's again a great alternative for Christmas compared to your big clarets or big reds. It's a Côte de Rhône blend, so you've still got your Grenache, Syrah in there, Carignan. So there's rich grapes, but it's done in a light style. It's a natural wine as well. It's made low intervention. There's hardly any sulfites in it. And I think it goes well with white meat, red meat. Again, as you mentioned earlier, chilled reds. I think for this, I know it's not summer now, but this also goes well in the summer chilled.
I think you could have it chilled even at Christmas time.
We have it chilled and have it turkey. Yeah.
Oh, that would. I think this would go really well with turkey. Actually, I think it would go well with all the components of your Christmas dinner.
Yeah, it's rich. A little bit of white pepper at the ends.
Oh yeah.
For the colour, it's actually got loads of flavour. I think it's a really diverse wine that you can use for many dishes. So,
Love
yeah.
that. What's that one called?
This is our Tapraz Rouge, our Côte de Rhône 2021 blend. And yeah, it's one of my favourites we do.
And the final one. What have we
Final
got?
one. So I thought again bring something different along alternatives to like your classic Christmas wines. Quite a known world wine, Malbec. So this is one of our few new world wines we bring in to put in keg and bottles.
I feel like a Malbec is so popular. My friends
Yeah,
always
they're
go for a
super,
Malbec.
yeah. I think the name, especially Argentinian now, people just know it. But it's originally a Bordeaux grape. It's indigenous to Bordeaux, and it died off nearly a long time ago when we had phylloxera pandemic in Europe, when nearly all the vines got destroyed. But Malbec somehow has a resurgence in Argentina over the last few decades, and it's kind of what it's known for now as an Argentinian grape. Their kind of main grape. As an alternative for Christmas Day, it's a bigger, bolder wine. I really like this wine for their sustainability credentials. So the wine's quite conventionally made, but the vineyards that it's grown in, they're all into their sustainability, regenerative viticulture, which I think is something we look for when we're looking for wineries to work with and buy from. And that's one of the reasons why I love this wine. But yeah, I think it's something not a big claret for Christmas Day lunch. I think this is a great alternative.
Talk me through the smells and the flavour. It smells lovely.
Yeah, I think on the nose it's super plummy,
Yeah.
rich dark berry fruit. It's got that obviously deep,
Smells
deep
comforting.
hue. Yeah, it's that warmth
Yeah.
in a glass. On the palate you get that kind of rich cherry.
I was going to say cherry.
Tannins are not super strong, so they're kind of medium. There's a bit of grippiness, and then all those big fruits just bursting, I think, in the back of your mouth there. So yeah.
So does tannin denote how acidic it is?
Tannins come from the skins of the grape itself, so that's where the colour comes from, and they kind of give the wine structure. And that's where a lot of the acting oxidants come from as well. So, and they kind of give it body and structure to the wine, and that comes from the skins. That, again, maceration, like I spoke about earlier, it all comes from that. But they also give bitterness, a little bit of bitterness as well, which I think why red wines tend to go better with food generally.
So you guys at Borough Wines, you champion these small independent producers. What do you think they can offer that the big brands can't really offer?
You can ask a lot more questions when you work with smaller producers, and also you can work with them to produce something more for what you're looking for. So there's a few wineries we work with. There's one in Italy, for example, which makes some great wines, and we work with them for the style of wines we kind of want to make. But also, I think going out looking for smaller producers, you also know they're more true to what they're saying. I think they're passionate about it, and they're the guys running the show. They generally mean it. They're doing it for the love as much as they are for the job. The big producers, which make a lot of the wine in the world, they're not as bothered about that.
So do you think that choosing these kind of smaller producers is a good way to be a bit more adventurous with wine? A lot of people with wine just stick to what they know, like my friend always ordering a Malbec wherever she goes. Do you think that this is a good way to branch out?
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, if you're not hugely knowledgeable about wine, don't be scared. Like if you go to a restaurant or a bar, it's probably a good place to start with, so you don't have to commit to a whole bottle. Chat to the people there. There's usually someone who's hopefully knowledgeable about what they're serving, and they can kind of guide you.
So I've got a final question for you. If you want to give a bottle of wine as a gift for Christmas, what's your choice?
Bottle of English sparkling.
Oh yeah, you're biased to English sparkling. No, but I actually think that is I'd be happy with that.
I think it's good. It's on theme, Christmas, New Year's, and I think some of the good ones rival some of the best of the champagne.
Oh yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
And it's nice to celebrate something that's local.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, one final thing. What about a very special bottle of wine that you're going to keep to yourself, not tell everyone about, you're just going to enjoy it?
See, I'm hard to do that because I love sharing. I don't like drinking really good wines on my own because I like to share them with people and go, how good's this? And share that experience. But
Okay, a special bottle of wine you're bringing to the table.
My partner's from Sicily, and
That's so cool.
I've gone out there a lot. I've worked vintages out there, and I think my favourite wine region in the world is Mount Etna. So an Etna Rosso from the north side of the mountain, from a single vineyard from old vines. There's loads of them out there now, and there's some amazing producers, and they're just stunning. That's one of my favourite wines.
Oh yeah, is it to do with the soil there?
Yeah, kind of. So the being on a volcano, high altitude helps, cooler climate, the fact that the soils are volcanic sandy soils, so which means that a lot of the vines there never got affected by phylloxera, which affected most of Europe 100 years ago or so, 120 years ago. So all the vines there, you find vineyards that are like 200 years old, and they're indigenous varieties. They're grapes that have over thousands of years come from that mountain. So I think they just put that climate is just perfectly designed for them. So the main grape variety, Nerello Mascalese, is just, it makes such wonderful reds. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Okay, that's what I want for this Christmas. Well, look, Calvin, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been so interesting and so delicious with all of these wines, and I know that people are going to use all of your wine tips over this festive period. So thank you so much.
No worries.
Cheers
Thanks for
coming
having me.
on.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Borough Talks. Make sure you follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode, and we can't wait to see you next time.
Cheers, guys.
Borough Talks was hosted by me, Giulia Crouch, produced and edited by James Deacon, editing and sound design by Chris Attaway, and a special thanks to Nina and Bethan at Borough Market, the team at Bedell's Wine Bar for hosting us, and everyone who spoke to us and fed us.
Come in, okay, sweetheart. Thank you so much, yeah?